my father and grandfather would talk about how polluted this river is that was moving through Toronto. They say that you'd see every color of the rainbow because there was dye factories along the side of this. There's all sorts of different chemical factories, and this was a completely dead ecosystem. And you can see that the water is much clearer now. You've got these different treatment systems. They're putting more habitat heterogeneity along the sides. But you can also see that this one side is still very armored, and so it doesn't have any movement, and they don't want any movement. There's a road beside there, and so this is one of the things that they do, but they did allow for the other side to be a little more natural, having a little more of a slope. But because this is all the stormwater from the city, all the hardscape, all the asphalt, all the concrete, everything is getting dumped into here. So you still have all your oils and your pesticides and everything coming into here, and it has this extreme boom and bust. The water levels will rise very quickly, and then they'll drop down very quickly still. But it is a lot better than it used to be. Obviously, more work can be done to make this a really nice stream, reducing the impacts in many different ways. Here there's actually salmon that run up this stream. It didn't occur for a long period of time. You can still see that there's a lot of green in the water, so there's still a lot of nutrients that are flowing into it. But it is a lot better than it used to be. So we are learning, and we are figuring some of these things out. Obviously, we have a long way to go still. After looking at the river in the middle, we're going to the end where the river is coming out and going into Lake Ontario. And here you can see the river coming out, and I'm just going to be wandering around here. There's a water treatment facility here, and then some of the buffer areas that have been created between the city and the lake, trying to create a bit of a buffer to protect the lake and to create a little bit of habitat there. Some of the islands that are in here, and this whole area in here has been recreated basically similar to the Leslie Street Spit. It's taking the refuse, the concrete material, and building up different areas within the lake to create more habitat. We looked at the Humber River further up above Toronto, and then as it's moving down and before it enters the lake into Lake Ontario, it goes through a series of stormwater management ponds here. And so the water comes in, that's moved through the city, and it's collected a lot of nutrients and a lot of sediment, a lot of garbage, and so it's being filtered. See these different segments here. The first segment's got a lot of algae in it, so the first segment's dropping out a certain amount of sediment and garbage, and then it moves through these different cells until it gets to this one where it's much more clean, and you can see the bottom now. So a lot of the sediment has been moved out, and a lot of the nutrients have been dropped out because the sediment has been dropped out. So once it's gone through these different cells, it's dropped out a lot of the nutrients. You can still see on the bottom here that it's got a fair bit of algae left on it, so there's a lot of nutrients still in the water. And then it has to move through another treatment system, which is the wetland ecosystem. So the wetland plants will absorb a lot of the nutrients and help break down some of the toxins before it's released into Lake Ontario. In this area, you can see that you've created a little bit of a meadow. You can see the apartment buildings in Toronto, and on the other side is the lake. So it's creating this little bit of a buffer zone in between the lake and the buildings, and it's allowing for a lot of different species of wildlife to occur here. So they've naturalized this area, introduced a lot of native species in, seeded them in, and they've come back and planted other species in to help increase the amount of biodiversity. And there also, you can see there's some disturbance here where they've come in and they've tried to remove some different invasive species that have been in here, and they'll come back and they'll do some planting to fill in these disturbance areas. when you're doing an invasive species removal, you want to try to minimize the amount of disturbance that's happening so that you're not just opening up the soil again to have other invasive species. Because when you open up the soil, it's opening up the habitat, a little space, a niche that allows these invasive species that are very disturbance dependent species to come in. So minimizing disturbance when you're doing invasive species removal is really important. In this area behind me, you can see that the open lake is behind, and then they've made a series of man-made islands, and these act as a breakwater, and it creates a little bit of a sheltered area behind here, and there's different wildlife, different ducks utilizing this area because it's sheltered. And on the rocks, you can see how the water level has been fluctuating. So the exposed rocks are the variation in the water level, and you can usually see some lines on the shoreline. It's fairly fine, so you might not be able to see it, but that's where your different water levels are. And within here, if they were going to escape this a little bit more, you could put soil on the top of this rock and make a nice gentle curve, and then plant it with aquatic vegetation so that you would have not only an armored shoreline, but also having a vegetated shoreline. And when you have a vegetated shoreline, the plants actually bind the soil together much better, and it'll hold your soil and it'll hold your shore